Hello everyone, my name is Masami Soda, professor of the University of Tsukuba. Today, lesson 2, what I want to become. This is the title of the lesson and objective. And Zeami is a famous player who established no Japanese play. And he's very famous. If you have a chance to see, please visit. No. Okay. And he said, never forget your initial intentions. And also said, never forget your intentions as they emerge. And what he said is the same as our university's motto, imagine the future. So this one objective of this lesson is, what do I want to become? It means, what do you want to be? And the second objective is, let's develop the foundation for changing the world through education. You are the member of the BPGI program of the University of Tsukuba. And it is the objective to change the world, okay? And for knowing the ways, I would like to interview our alumni who are the actually world-famous educational researchers. Today, I would like to interview our alumni, Dr. Suguru Mizunoya. And he is the leader of the technical cooperation on the International Institute of Educational Planning, UNESCO Paris. IIEP has 3 divisions, and he is the head of the technical cooperation. It is very much honor for us to know how he becomes a researcher who are trying to change the world better. Okay. Okay. Now I would like to call Dr. Mizunoya. Hello, Dr. Mizunoya.
Hello, Professor Isoda.
Thank you very much for today.
It is my pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me for this important lecture. Thank you again.
Yeah, it is very much honor for all of us. And today we have 3 parts, and now I would like to begin the first part. Part 1 is Dr. Mizunoya's background and career development. So please, the time is yours. お勧めくださって大丈夫です。
はい。Let me start. And so here I want to share my life experience and what took me here, what took me to work for the UNESCO IIEP. Right. So as introduced by Professor Isoda, I'm the head of technical cooperation team of IIP in Paris. And I've been working in different countries and with different peoples. And the photo shows the photo with a professor from Harvard University. And she just published a book about Let's Change the World and targeting the undergraduate and graduate student who would like to pursue the field of international education cooperation. So highly recommended. This book is really interesting. And I've been working in different countries, different regions, more than 25 years in UNICEF, UNESCO, World Bank. And I started working in Vanuatu in the South Pacific, which I will talk shortly about, and Thailand, Kenya, New York, Paris. But also I worked in the conflict and fragile countries such as Syria, Iraq, and Pakistan, and so on. So today I'd like to share my life stories with you, hoping they will help you to better navigate your career. But that was in Senegal, and this was taken in northern part of Thailand, and this photo was taken with colleagues in Yemen. Right. So maybe let me start with the time I joined University of Tsukuba in 1992 as a bachelor student. I came from a rural part of Japan where I never met friends from foreign countries or Japanese people who lived outside of Japan. And one of my classmates was a Japanese woman who used to live in Egypt. And then she was interesting because I never met somebody like her. And then even more interestingly, she mentioned that she wanted to become a teacher for children with disabilities. That I was taken back because I never thought of it. And I understood some people want to become a teacher. But I was like, why specifically for children with disabilities? And I had no clue. And I talked to different friends, and they basically told me that, oh, you wouldn't know unless you do it. So I started to join different volunteer works and started to understand and get more experience so that I can understand. Um, at the same time, I start to read a lot of books related to social issues. Okay, so children with disabilities, people with disabilities, one of the topic, the social, very often discussed in the social issues, but there are different social issues such as deforestation, nuclear and energy crisis, the global economic crisis, etc., etc. And I did many things, and which didn't took me anywhere, many of them, but I think that was a quite important phase of my life. I joined the Peace Board as a volunteer, and the idea was if I become a volunteer and I work 100 or 200 hours, then I can accumulate credit so that I can get on that boat to see boat which will go around the world. Um, I was curious and trying to know more, but at the same time, I started to feel a little bit depressed and felt powerless. And for example, there was a Shimodate incident where basically a Thai woman killed another Thai woman. But that Thai woman who killed another woman was taken from Thailand and against her will, basically. And she was forced to work one of the nightclubs. And then she was arrested. And when she was arrested, she had the bag with a lot of money, 500, 700 million yen, and also her passport. Basically, she wanted to get her passport back, but that her passport was in the bag. So she was, this became a low suitcase, but there was some issues about the process. There was no Thai translator. So whether the police, properly investigated this case was a question. So I joined the study sessions organized by the lawyers from Shimodate to know more about what has happened. But what I was able to do was just set up the class room for the meeting and prepare like drinks and, just maybe send out at that time, even there was no email. So I printed some, the papers with to invite more people to join. But I felt really helpless. I wasn't a lawyer and I wasn't contributing and the issues in the world is just overwhelming. Then, because I was doing so many different things, a friend of mine from a puppet show club, which I belonged to when I was in Tsukuba, asked me if I want to go to Nepal. And I asked why. Oh, because the NGO with her church is going to organize a study tour in Nepal, where they're gonna show puppet shows to educate rural populations in Nepal regarding the health issues, like eat more, take more vitamin A's and for your eyes, etc. So I thought, okay, that's something I never have done and sounds interesting. So I joined study tour, and that same organization organized study tour in Nepal and Vietnam. So I went these countries, and I learned that there are many social programs in the world, but my own self-realization should come first. Okay, I shouldn't sacrifice myself something. Like I need to live my life first. So that sounds very simple, but it took a few years for me to find that. Then I thought, okay, I wasn't able to speak English at all, so I applied for an exchange program of University of Tsukuba, and I went to State University of New York in Oswego in 1993, and my TOEFL score was 467, which is probably lower than any of you who are now listening to this this lecture. But somehow I managed, and that's how I started my career. And I still keep in touch with my Nepali friends through Facebook. And this slide has a lot of text. I won't
May I ask a
read.
question about the previous
Yes,
slide?
yes, yes.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Mizunoya have several experiences at undergraduate. I astonished. And why you wanna, it is outside of the university activity, right?
Most of them, yes. So the Peace Board was outside, but I joined a volunteer for the high school at Tsukuba and high schools, which is affiliated with University of Tsukuba, the high school for the children with disabilities. So I started with that. So they were they were looking for volunteers
Uh-huh.
to support their children with disabilities for the like 2 days camp near the Mount Fuji. So I started with that. Then I kind of try to identify different opportunities for volunteering in the University of Tsukuba.
Thank you very much. So through the activity of the circle and study groups, you extended your experiences and even you are in the at the undergraduate student. I astonished.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I just wanna say that at that time, 30 years ago, the TOEFL score, our Japanese university student normally like Dr. Mizunoya level. The reason why is that basically we studied the math English in text. In these days, it's changed. It is also the result of reform of the education. Thank you very much. Just an additional comment.
Yeah. When I landed in one of the airport in New York, I couldn't understand anything. And so actually I'm quite jealous with younger generations with a better English education in Japan.
Yeah, I had the same experience the same year. I was in Cornell for
Uh,
the 1 year scholarship, uh, but I couldn't speak any English at that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so here I listed my different job experiences. I started after I graduated University of Tsukuba. I worked for Japan Society for the Promotion of Science for 1 year because I was attracted by the possibility of working abroad and also studying abroad that this institution will offer. But I didn't want to spend like 4 or 5 years waiting for that moment, and I didn't find that job very interesting. So I joined Japan Overseas Cooperation Volunteer, and I went to Vanuatu. Then I wanted to work for UN, so luckily I found a scholarship and went to Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs for 2 years to get my master degree, where actually I fell in love with statistics. I never studied statistics, but I found it super interesting. So that became my strength, the professional strength, even today. Then after that, I joined International Labour Organization as a JPO. But it wasn't an education organization. So like I wanted to come back to education. So I joined the PhD program of Columbia University, PhD in economics and education. And after that, I worked for World Bank, UNICEF, and I became a assistant professor in Chinese University of Hong Kong. Then they joined back to UNICEF HQ in New York, and then they moved to the Paris. So it's even I kind of understood, my passion is around education. It wasn't a straight pathway. You have to always navigate yourself and try to find the best for yourself. And it has been a process for me.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Where did you study the statistics? Because you are your undergraduate is the Faculty of Human Sciences. So in that case, if you study psychology, we have the opportunity to learn the statistics well. However, where did you study the statistics?
No, in the Columbia University, basically. So like I wasn't major in psychology in Japan, so I didn't have a chance. In the master program of Columbia University, it's one of the core courses. So you have to take the statistics, like two statistics courses and also the economic courses. That were kind of I first learned about this field of
Okay,
program.
thank you very much.
So the statistics, like I liked it. It was like a it was a fun process for me because but after I went back to the PhD program, then I started to take mathematics and because I wanted to take statistics courses offered by the graduate schools of statistics of Columbia University, for which I didn't have enough math skills. So I even took the undergraduate math courses when I was in a PhD program. So I want to share my experience that still helps me to keep going from Vanuatu. I don't know if you know about the Vanuatu, but Vanuatu is located in the South Pacific, near Fiji, near New Caledonia, near Solomon Island. So I joined the Vanuatu as a volunteer and helping youth to generate cash income and help them to become self-employed. I spent good 2 years in an island, and I would say that that was the most influential 2 years I ever spent in my life. So this is how kids in Vanuatu look like. They have blonde, golden afro hair, and which is very unique, and it's so soft if you touch them. So they're very beautiful children, and spend time with them and playing basketballs and going to the sea, catching fish, etc. I was helping youth groups in various villages, so I visit villages very often. And one day I found a girl. She was sweeping the ground just outside of her house, and I saw her, and it was like midday. So I kind of teased her by saying, "What's up? What are you doing? Aren't you be in school today?" And I was kind of expecting that she talks back to me and then make some jokes or something. I was expecting she engages me for some conversation, but she didn't put her face up, still looking down, sweeping, and just said her brother started to go to school, so she won't be able to go to school anymore. And she was sad, and I didn't know what to say. It wasn't unexpected, and I left. But that moment still alive in my heart, and it helps me to keep going. I have very concrete experience that I felt my powerlessness again, and also, in a way, but it became a purpose of my life as well. So here I'm wrapping up my presentation for the first section. A few words that may be useful for you from my experience would be: value your curiosity and what captures your heart. The world is vast, huge. So you need to meet diverse people and embrace a variety of experiences, and that makes your life rich. And focus on the process, not just the results. While I now work at UNESCO, the journey to get here was a far from linear process. So embrace the process and allow it to shape your career path. And this is my favorite movie, my Forrest Gump, which is old movie around 1994. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. So, but that's part of the fun as well. Right. Thank you very much. And then handing over back to the Professor Isoda.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it is then I asked also various plenty of experiences and challenges. Dr. Mizunoya done in his younger age. And I also would like to enhance to study something at the undergraduate. Yeah, so for example, that Professor Mizunoya, Dr. Mizunoya is strong in statistics, and at the graduate program, he study again to the undergraduate to study math again. So, of course, in any time we can relearning. However, at the undergraduate program, it is a good thing to study statistics as a tools for the inquiry for the world. Thank you very much, Dr. Mizunoya.
Thank you very much.
Amazing experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mizunoya. This is the end of part 1. And then next part 2, I would like to ask call Dr. Mizunoya again. The title is Overcoming Life Challenges. Please, now the time is yours.
Okay, so the second topic is about how to overcome the life challenge. And so I was thinking about what kind of experiences and insight I should share. Maybe I will start sharing with different key events. Selected some key events which wasn't too easy for me. The first, searching for purpose, was very difficult when I was in undergraduate. And I have to say, still is difficult. You know, as undergraduate, you have to search for the purpose, but you have to revisit as you marry or have family, or like as you become a middle manager or towards your career. I mean, the purpose would change. So this is not easy, straightforward challenge, which actually is a process, and you will need to keep coming back to that. Striving to understand the world still, again, it was when I entered the undergraduate, there were so many things I didn't know. When I went to the Columbia University, the master degree, I met many people who worked in different fields, companies, financial sectors, NGOs, government, politicians, and the world is big. But still, the world is changing now, AI and technologies and new geopolitical situations. So trying to understand the world is also a never-ending process. And when I was much younger, I wanted to go outside of Japan, abroad, but my English skill was quite limited. What should I do? And finding fast job was particularly very difficult because you don't have labor market experience. So, and you can't afford being jobless either. So you find a job, but actually you have little clue what kind of job makes you happy. And finding a job itself isn't easy. So that was a challenge. And navigating second, third, fourth jobs, always the challenge. And I wanted to study abroad, but how to finance it was a question. So luckily, I received scholarships from various sources, so I was able to study, but otherwise I wasn't able to do that. I was in New York for 911, and I was able to see the smoke coming up from the Twin Towers from Columbia University, and that was a huge moment. I experienced a great 7 earthquake and from Fukushima, so my hometown was affected by the nuclear, and my also house was partially hit by the tsunami, and it affected entire family. I was working for the UNICEF Kenya at that time. So in that year, in 2011, so there was an earthquake in Japan. Then in summer, the Horn of Africa drought crisis hit Kenya, Somalia, Tanzania, Sudan, that area. And I was quite busy with that. And that was also a huge new experience. And actually, I lost my hearing ability at that time because of stress and so on. And then that time I had my first baby. So I have to handle family and the work at the same time. So the drought crisis just didn't come with the drought. So there was war or conflict between Somalia and AU army, which is basically Kenyan army. So this terrorist group called Al-Shabaab was fighting back. So every week there were explosions of some kind of small bombs everywhere in Nairobi. So that gave us, like me and family, my wife, extra stress because we weren't sure like where to buy, daily groceries because those like ordinary places were targeted by terrorist group. Actually, there was a Westgate shopping mall which was attacked by Al-Shabaab, and the entire building collapsed and many people killed, and including my former supervisors. So the Nairobi wasn't safe at all at that time. When I was working for UNICEF in New York, there was an office restructuring, so the funding for my post was cut. So I had to find the project that to finance my own salary, which was a lot of stress as well. So, and these are some of the challenges, not too special. There are more challenges for different people with families and health, and so I don't think these challenges are very special for me or something very extraordinary. I mean, people experience these kind of challenges anyway. But what I thought that what might be useful to share with younger generation is, okay, whatever challenges, let me focus on the career path. So I think, including myself, may have focused too much on the choices in the path. Like what kind of choice A and choice B, which one is more important, which one makes more sense. That doesn't help you much. I didn't help me much either. So one time I did comparative kind of analysis, like which organization I should work. I wasn't sure. So could be World Bank, could be UNICEF, could be UNESCO, could be JICA. And I made a big matrix, and I came up with a rating strategy. So I started to fill these. Okay, if it's World Bank, you have more exposures for and you can use your skills, but you need to live far away from Japan and family. Pay is good. If JICA, you can be in Japan, and you can take care of your family aspects, but maybe it's not easy to find a super technical position as if you become a JICA officer, right? Not an expert. So then I spent quite a lot of time, and then I started to rate, but no surprise, the final scores are very similar. I thought I was so stupid because, maybe, I mean, it could have been different, but since you are not sure, well, I tried to be objective, but still, it didn't give me a good answers. So that experience taught me that I was focusing on too much on choices, and what's actually more important is not choices. So here I'm showing the donut, and what kind of research topic you want to choose, or even concentration is are you gonna study economics? Are you gonna study education? Are you gonna study psychology? Are you gonna study political science? That's a choice you have to make. Which job you want to find yourself in the future? Because you can choose, right? You can become a bankers and go back to, I don't know, find something you like, maybe you can even work for sake factories or anime, manga, cartoon exporter, or you can become a deep marine sea engineers, whatever you want. So it's a big choice you have to make, and whether you should study abroad or you should find a job right away after BA program, or you should continue to study to get your master, or do you want to work for a famous company or startup company where maybe you have more experience with startup, but your life might be less predictable, and how to balance social and family decisions and how to finance your activities and so on. So there are a lot of questions. What I argue is that, here we are talking about the choices and actually there are means to achieve something, your own purpose, your values, or, your life goal. So whatever topic of research you choose, whatever jobs you choose, whatever financial or social decisions you make, you should be making decisions to serve yourself. So what's important is not really the ring of the donut, but actually the center. You think that which you can't see, that part is much more important. It's easy to say that, right? It's easy to say that, okay, you have to have your values, you have to understand your core values, you have to have the purpose of your life, you have to have a higher vision for your life and so on. How would you be able to have that? How can you be so certain about your purposes and the values, which is not easy? I think based on my experience, you have to apply two strategies, which is plus and minus. Plus, what does it mean? Like, you have to try first. You can't be able to swim if you don't jump into the swimming pool. You have to start learning. How ugly it is, how heavy it is, or how hard it is, you have to jump into the swimming pool, start moving your arms and legs and try to float and just try to gain more experience as a start. So you have to do something. You have to take actions. That is plus. In my case, I learned a lot about different occupations, especially when I joined Columbia University. There were investment bankers, people from the accounting and consulting firms, media, like newspapers and TV, the broadcast companies and politicians and etc. So I met different people, and I even did my summer internship at Fitch, which is the one of the famous financial rating company, Fitch, like Standard and Poor's and what is the other one? Standard & Poor's and Moody's, right? So because I was learning statistics and I feel comfortable with numbers and it pays well. So I went back to Japan and I did my summer internship at Fitch, which paid me quite a lot. But I got bored and people are nice, people are really nice, and they were trying to help me. But I didn't feel that this job is for me. So it didn't help much. But you have to keep doing. On the other hand, when I tried my best when I was in undergraduate, which helped me, right, to get to know more about children with disabilities, and that led to Nepal, Vietnam, and Vanuatu. So that was a success story. But at Columbia, it didn't work. And then I thought minus part is quite important. What is minus? So we have this. So I've been interested in education. I gave you a story about a girl in Vanuatu, and that helps me keep going. But even before I went to Vanuatu, I was interested in education, and I thought of my childhood. My grandmother went to primary schools for 2 years, so she was very proud being able to do multiplication, like 2 times 2, 2 times 5. And she was very proud. And that's all she learned in school, basically. And my grandfather graduated from primary, and my father was high school. But all of them are very smart people, very smart, intelligent, kind people. And I was one of the first family members who went to the undergraduate program, university, and also went to graduate school. So I was very lucky because I was born much later than them. Like if my grandparents were born today, I'm pretty sure they will go to university and get whatever job they want to do. But instead, my grandmother, for example, worked in a coal mine. So from Fukushima, we used to have coal mines, and she went into the coal mine, working with men in a very very hot, dark and humid and dangerous work environment. So she was doing that, and she was doing different jobs. I think that stuck with me when I was a child. And also my father valued the work of teachers a lot. He respected teachers. And so somehow I probably picked, because my father should have talked about millions of billions of different topics with me, but I think I picked education from the conversations and the values he showed with me. So I started to realize, okay, actually I have this passion for education, and it's almost given. If I think of the timeline, I had this passion for education since I was a child from my family. And that was quite important realization. So this process of minus is actually, we are influenced by very recent events. The news we read today, or the event, it happened last week, and conversation you had a month ago. You are affected by more recent events. But let's forget about these recent ones and try to peel, like, you can peel onions, right? You can peel onions and take outside, and you can get to the core of the onion, something like that. You have to take out your recent knowledge, recent experience, and then try to see where you are coming from. What are the core values you have? I think that process is also important, because you have to talk to yourself, and you have to think about what are the really core unchanging and the values you have. So I think it's quite important to have both plus and minus, trying to gain more experience and knowledge, but also let's forget about new knowledge and experience, and then look at the core values you have throughout your life. So you have to do both, and this will be a process again. So there is no easy answer, and you have to do it by yourself. No one can give you your values, right? So that would be my recommendation, and I'd like to end my presentation by introducing these skills, which is called social emotional skills, or sometimes non-cognitive skills. These are soft skills, right? Unlike academic skills that you can measure easily. But these skills are often more important than hard skills, helping you to navigate your life much, much better in your family, in your workplace, when you make important decisions. Because you need to, for example, communicate internally yourself and externally to others. You have to know yourself, and you have to tell what you are, who you are, and what you want. Self-awareness is a key starting point for anything you do, right? And you need to regulate your emotions, that you need to know what kind of emotional triggers you may have, so that you can react to various stimulates properly, and so on. You have to have a growth mindset. You might have a challenge, but challenge can be opportunities for you to grow, right? Challenge can be new opportunities for you to become, the better yourself. So like, don't take challenges negatively all the time. So and the list can keep going on. And I definitely would like to recommend you to buy some books and read and start developing your awareness about soft skills, not social emotional skills, and start learning them, because they will be helping you making better decisions throughout your life. I stop here and handing over to the Professor Isoda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is the very much important message for the career development for the BPGI program student. And myself, I really synchronize to the Dr. Mizunoya. In my case, my grandfather was a farmer, and my father hoped I will work locally. However, I didn't follow his hope. I chose mass education and become a professor as a researcher to improve the mathematics education. And as long as I choose that value, I couldn't take care of my father and mother. Such a thing is making the decision. It is related with the career development. And thank you very much. Now, the end of the part 2. Thank you very much, Dr. Mizunoya.
Thank you.
Okay, now part 3. Dr. Mizunoya will explain for finding the problems in educational research. So, Dr. Mizunoya, the time is yours.
Thank you very much. And so the part 3 is about education research. And I mentioned earlier that I obtained my PhD degree from Columbia Universities in economics of education. So that means I have studied macro and microeconomic theory, including growth theory, the macroeconomic growth, because the education and technologies are important factors for macroeconomic growth. Labor market analysis, because education is about the human capital and how human capitals are evaluated through labor markets, and public finance, because education is a part of public program. I studied statistics quite intensively, so data analysis, various data analysis, including the descriptive analysis, the inequality analysis, the composition of different composition of education results, econometrics, Bayesian statistics, sampling survey methodology, the questionnaire development, and also through UNICEF, I spent quite a lot of time for data visualization, because you have to communicate with decision makers or users of data. You have to find a way to convey the key findings and also data, so that it helps the users to make better decisions, users and policymakers, stakeholders to make better decisions. At IIP UNESCO, I'm engaged with education situation analysis, which is the sectoral analysis of the education sector, starting from pre-primary education, primary education, secondary and tertiary education, in terms of access to education, quality of education, governance of education, public finance of education, teacher workforce management, and so on. So it's quite comprehensive and heavy process. For many countries do this every 5 to 10 years to develop education sectoral master program. I engage with the EMIS, Education Information Management System, because you have to understand what's happening in the educational sector to make better decisions. So the EMIS is a very important part of the our work. Recently, our team has been spending quite a lot of time for the geospatial data and climate change. We know that the global warming is continuing and the average temperature will increase. However, when you hear, for example, the average temperature is going to increase by 3 degrees, say, in 30 years, you would react probably, so what? It's very important for us, UNESCO, to unpack the impact of global warming. So, okay, 3 degrees, what does it mean for education? Then the use of geospatial data is very powerful. For example, we have been analyzing countries such as Zimbabwe, Laos, Cambodia, Mozambique. And in Zimbabwe, as of today, throughout the year, there are a few moments, months, where the average temperature goes up very high, which exceed certain degree set by the global scientist, where we can say, oh, it's not possible to study. So we can calculate the number of students affected by extreme heat using the EMIS data, educational system data, and geospatial data, including big data, climate data. So we can calculate that, how many students and how many schools are affected. Now, based on the climate data, we can estimate how the temperature in Zimbabwe is going to change, disaggregated, meaning in different areas in Zimbabwe in 30 years. We can also estimate how many children there will be, like based on the demographic data. So by combining the demographic data, EMIS data, and climate data, we can estimate the number of students who can study because simply it's too hard to study. And the share of such student is not neglectable. It's going to be 20–30% of entire population, child population in Zimbabwe won't be able to study if we don't take action. So if we do that, we know number of children, we know number of schools which would be affected, then we can start calculating what kind of interventions would require and how much it will cost. So it becomes a long-term education plan. So I'm just giving you kind of the research we do in IIP. And at last, we have also a qualitative study, which is institutional capacity analysis. We want to understand what kind of bottlenecks exist in education. Like for example, there is a budget, right? National budget. The budget have to be implemented, but there are many different processes to implement budget. First, you have to start with the approval in parliament. Then what comes next? National, dispersing budget from the central to the subnational entities. Then subnational entities, the district education offices or provincial education offices, they start to buy, for example, teaching and learning materials. So there will be procurement processes and so on. Then there could be some bottlenecks along these processes. So try to understand the systemic administrative bottlenecks helps you to implement your budget more successfully and more rapid way. So that is a qualitative analysis we do. So I'm showing that although, okay, so my main strength is economics of education, but I also combine the qualitative analysis. So I started with education undergraduate, and then I learned about economics and statistics in my PhD degree, and in my work, I'm gaining more knowledge and skills related to the geospatial data, climate data, as well as qualitative analysis. but I think the going beyond this overview would be a little bit too specific for this lecture. So instead of explaining or the showcasing the research I did, I'd like to invite you for a data visualization program that I developed. So the education data can help you to understand the access, retention, and completion of education, and data can help you to identify the big picture, understand the big picture, and identify system challenges. For example, like how many children have never been to school? Do we know? We don't know. That is quite important question. Or once children enter school, are they going to stay and progress as planned? Or are they going to repeat? How many are going to repeat same grade? How many are going to drop out? It's quite important to understand that. Plus, like we have to understand, is there any gender gap? Is there any wealth gap? Is there any geospatial gaps? So unpacking data helps you to understand what's happening, and probably it helps you to start discussing the causal mechanisms behind. So when I was in UNICEF, I have analyzed data from 103 countries to develop education pathway analysis so that policymakers can have a better understanding of what's happening in the world, in their countries. Also, I have calculated aggregated data. So here it says 92% of children globally have ever entered primary schools. So that means if you look at the global figures, 8% of children has never been to school, right? So, and I provided this the link, and hope you will get the presentation, or you can actually start typing the data in UNICEF and how are children progressing through school. You will have access to the database, and you can start playing with it. It's a fun website and data visualization. So I'd like to demonstrate the power of disaggregation, kind of unpacking the average data, right? So here, the figure shows the global picture. It says world. It says world here. And it says also the primary, lower secondary, upper secondary. So that means if you look at the lowest bar, 92% means when we ask a question to a high school student, right? 90% of them say, yes, I have been to school, and 8% would say, I have never been to school. Here, I think it's important to know the concept of school-age children. So the survey, the data I used, asks question to 15 to 17 years old children, not student. So from 103 countries, we asked, or the government asked a question. Okay, are you 15 to 17? Yes. Okay, then have you been to school? Yes, no. And the answer is summarized in the lowest bar here. 92% said, yes, I have been to school. The 8% said, oh, I have never been to. Now, among 92% entered school, okay, 5% dropped out, and 4% are still in primary. Okay, so among the 100 people we asked, let's say, for every 100 students we asked, 83 people answered, yes, I have been to primary school and graduated primary school. The next question is, okay, after you graduated primary, did you go to lower secondary? 78% says yes, and 4% says, no, I stopped studying. Okay, now we know that 80% of students entered lower secondary, and then we ask question again, and have you graduated? And 57% says, yes, I have graduated. 70% says, I'm still in lower secondary, and the 4% said, no, I dropped out. Among 57% graduated lower secondary, we asked the question, did you go to are you in high school now? And 53% says yes, and 4% says no. After graduating lower secondary, I stopped schooling. So this chart should be read like that. I hope it makes sense to you. So now, in the world, okay, there are two kinds of human in a way, it's males and females. So let's disaggregate data to see if there is a gender gap. So same chart, but one for female on your left-hand side is for female, and for your right-hand side, it's male. Okay, so if we look at the out-of-school children never entered primary, for female, it's 9%, and for male, it's 7%. So the difference is small. If we look at the share of children studying in high school, 54% of female answered yes, and 52% of male answered yes. So the gender gap is quite small. However, if we look at each country and, as we zoom in countries, we start to see differences. So next slide shows the result from Thailand. Initial access to education is very good in Thailand. So almost 100% for both boys and girls enter primary, and they continue to progress without dropping out too much. But at the lower secondary, you start to see some kind of dropout from the system for males only. For females, you have some, but it's a very small percentage. And for lower secondary, the completion rate would be like 80% for female and 70% for males. If you look at the share of children, high school age children studying in high school, the share is 73% for women and 53% for men. Okay, data is about 5 years old. So it's not the most recent data, but we can see that actually boys are quite disadvantaged in Thailand. Okay, that is a fact. Then we can start talking about what are the factors affecting boys dropping out from school, right? And the very common answer would be child labor, or after graduating, child labor, which doesn't mean illegal, right? Just children working. Could be legal work. So after graduating lower secondary, children have right to work. So it's perfectly fine for them to start working. For women, maybe less. I mean, they are less attracted by child labor. So, but these are assumptions, and you can start implementing different research methods, such as interviews, structured interviews, qualitative analysis to understand why boys are dropping out. Now moving to Afghanistan, you see huge gender difference in this case, right? So if the left-hand side is female again, so 49% of high school age children in Afghanistan at that time, now is different. Now, as of today, is gonna be worse. But at that time, before Taliban government, about 50%, half of girls has never been to school, right? And that limit the access to education for girls throughout the education cycles. So when we look at the upper secondary level, only 22% of high school age girls in Afghanistan are studying in high school. What about boys? Actually, access to education in Afghanistan is not great. Like, even for boys, about 25%, 1 in 4 boys never been to school. So there is definitely access problems in Afghanistan. The boys are better off than girls, but if you compare Afghanistan and Thailand, the overall difference is huge, right? And by looking at this, education policymakers start thinking about how to improve education for both boys and girls, how we can increase initial access for education for girls, right? And the boys. And also there are quite a lot of dropouts, right? So among 55%, 51 girls entered in primary 8 girls drop out. So, 8 out of 51, so about 16% of girls drop out in primary. And again, boys, about 14%. Okay, 14 out of 100 boys drop out. So even if they make it to school, many children drop out. So it's quite important to think about how to improve initial access and also how to retain children in school, right? So, the data helps you to think about education interventions in a systemic manner and more strategically. Now, let's go back to Thailand. So Thailand looked heaven comparing to Afghanistan. But if we start disaggregating in a different way, maybe you can find issues that was hidden from the previous data. Now, on your left-hand side, you have a group. The wealth quintile is the poorest. So now we are looking at the lower 20%, poor household in Thailand, comparing to the top 20% richest families in Thailand. So for the richest, the access to education is 100% from primary and almost 100% for secondary. Some children repeat, that's why they are not graduating. But I'm pretty sure those 12% who are still in lower secondary are going to graduate. So the access and retention and progression for the rich family is quite good. But if we look at the poor children from poor families, after graduating primary, 13% stop attending school. So discontinuation of education, right? So again, we can associate this with the fact more boys are dropping out in different countries, right? So, excuse me. So the poor children there's a big, significant notable differences between children with children from poor and rich families. And we want to understand why certain children need to drop out from schools. Maybe they don't have enough cash for the school uniform or the school meals, etc., etc. So we want to understand why, right? So then, before we were talking about boys and the girls as a target group. Now we are talking about the children from poor household as our target group for the education interventions. Now, we were looking at the individual countries, and we started with a global aggregated figure. We can aggregate data for different typologies of countries. In this case, I'm showing the countries affected by emergency and countries not affected by emergencies. So if we have this data, it's very clear that the countries affected by emergencies, like natural disasters or the conflicts, man-made conflicts, children are more likely to never been to school, drop out from school, repeat same grade, and discontinue education. So you see that the impact of the conflict and emergencies in education. So when we talk about education, actually it's quite important to think about both development and emergency. They are development meaning the education policies in a regular conditions, without imagining the emergencies, earthquake, conflicts, and tsunami, etc., etc. But the emergency situation as well. So this also speaks to the fact that the disaster risk reduction should be a main integrated as a major strategies to improve or increase resilience of education sector, because we know that emergencies can affect education quite a lot, and which can have a long-lasting impact on children. Now, so education data is quite important in my view, and I think a lot of people would agree with me that data provides different insights and into the scope of the education and social issues, including number of people affected, including the what kind of geographic, economic, and gender factors affect educational outcomes, and so on. So by analyzing data, what I showed was a descriptive analysis, right? So basically we have data and we have average, but we unpacked, the data according to different characteristics. Could be children's characteristics, boys and girls, or the country characteristics, or it could be a household characteristics. Let's say the household is located in urban areas or rural areas. So you can disaggregate the data to see what kind of education challenges exist in the country. It helps you to pinpoint communities and children most affected and vulnerable. Data can help to understand the causal mechanisms behind it, and for which you can use both qualitative and quantitative methods, which can guide interventions to the populations and areas that need them the most. For example, data can help allocate resources schools with high dropout rate and identify relevant interventions. Data also helps you to track progress, what we call monitoring and evaluation. Like when you have a policy, you want to monitor to see if your intervention is making a difference. If yes, great. And you want to know like what would be the degree of the impact you're making. If not, still great. We want to learn from failures to improve our interventions, right? So nowadays, in social science areas, the term implementation science is becoming popular, which means we have a policy and we want to learn more about the factors helping or preventing your interventions from making an impact. It's like a Kaizen concept of Toyota. You start implementing something and then you want to learn and improve so that you can achieve maximum impact of your interventions. So the data-driven decisions are quite important, and all the policies, in my view, have to be based on data and evidence. That helps. Data ensures policies and interventions are based on evidence and have a greater chance of success. So the point I wanted to make here was actually the data evidence are quite important for public policy discussions. I'm not saying the contextual knowledge is not important, right? So you have to understand field of education. You have to understand the field of, let's say, anthropological kind of approach to the issue you are interested in. They are extremely important. The point I want to make is that both are important, but especially when you are in undergraduate, it is an opportunity for you to master these tools now, right? It's gonna be more difficult to master both qualitative and quantitative methods after you graduate. So these, in your company, probably it's very difficult. You won't have opportunities and chance to spend a lot of time to master these methodologies and tools. So I would strongly recommend to value your opportunities to master these research methods, because they're gonna help you to be for you to be successful in your academic career, but also it helps you to it helps you to establish your own comparative advantage when you start working in a firm as well. Okay, I stop here and thank you very much, and handing back to the Professor Isoda.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, the data analysis is necessary for the political decision making. And based on the how to say course, which make cleared by the data analysis, government provides the budget. And more than 20 years ago, I began the lesson study project on the APEC. And we invited two types of lesson study researchers. One is in relation to teams, qualitative and quantitative based research in relation to international comparison of mathematics education achievement and classroom activities. And that is one group. And another group is that the people of the lesson study and both of them use the same word lesson study. However, the team's types of studies are based on the data analysis. It is very much influential to the government. And in the case of Japan, we provide that more than 20 years ago, achievement of the teams become lower. And the government set more time and the more budget for math and science education provided. And such a making decision is based on done by the qualitative and quantitative study based on the data. And UNESCO Institute actually very much influential to the world to establish that every government have to set the budget to do something, improvement. So on that context, it is very much influential. And actually in my side is that actual lesson study implementer to implement for improvement based on the budget is the problem is made already clear. However, there are various ways of challenges for the improvement. Such things are also issues in the education. The role of the IIEP is making clear the view for the educational problems. And it is very much influential to the government, and the government trying to improve under such information, under the data. And the Professor Mizunoya provided produced such information to improve the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now this is the end of the lesson 2, what do I want to become? Actually today, Dr. Mizunoya provided us for the making decision for the what do I want to become. Thank you very much. We have the wonderful talk about his experiences and educational research. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you would like to know more about education, please visit the CRICED. Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。